All right. Hey, YouTube. What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Jazzy Time with your host, Bailey. How's it going, everybody? I am doing this video laying down in my bed because I don't feel like sitting at my desk to do it. So I promised you guys a video on, remember when I was like, oh, I lost my nail, but I didn't really lose it. I actually had to do the old snap off. And the reason for that was I'll give you guys like a little bit of the back story that comes with it. And now, full disclaimer, I am going to be talking about blood and pain and things like that. So if you don't like hearing or listening to stories of blood and pain and blah, 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 please don't watch this video. So, what had happened in the beginning? Now, as women, every woman's body is different. Okay, so some when it comes to like your monthly, you can bleed longer, you can bleed less, what have you. So my husband and I we weren't actively trying to have another kid, but we were, like it was kind of like if it happens, sure. If not, whatever. So I was expecting my time of the month, and I did not have that for about 12 days. And I was getting, like early pregnancy symptoms, right? Like I could smell things from a mile away, and like I was getting tenderness, and I was getting cravings, and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, after 12 days, I got what I thought was my monthly, right? And then all those symptoms just disappeared. And I didn't really think anything of it. So I had 7 days of what I thought was a regular. And then I had spotting for 5 days after that. And then I had another. One second. Sorry. Vinny gets a little excited when he watches Ratatouille. And then I had another week of that, and or another week of like strong bleeding, right? So I thought to myself, thinking, okay, I had symptoms and then I didn't have symptoms, and then I've got all this extra bleeding. Well, maybe I had an unknown miscarriage, which is what happens. Your body just rejects any embryo or fetus or whatever on its own, and your body just kind of bleeds it out, right? And then in the middle of week 3, I got this terrible, terrible pain in my back on the left side. It was almost like it wasn't like a sciatic pain because I have sciatic nerve pain. It was like somebody had hoofed me real hard with like a steel toe boot in the back, and it was just god awful. Like a 9 on a 10 scale for pain, and it lasted like 2 days. And then a couple of days after that, we went to like the bar with a couple of friends, and it was our friend's birthday, so I was like, sure, we'll get out of the house. And then it was like I had such pain in like my pelvis. I almost couldn't stand up. It was just terrible, terrible pain. And I forced myself to, stand up and walk down the stairs and go to the washroom. And, like it was just, I was not having a good night at all. And then I had another week of lighter bleeding again. So with this, I was having this on and off for an entire month, basically, like this on and off pain and just like bleeding all the time. And I didn't, like, with everything that's going on in the world, you don't really want to go to the doctor for something you think that'll end on its own. Because when I read about like unknown miscarriage, you can bleed for a month, something like that, right? So everything was fine. Everything started to lighten up. And then one evening, it was July 23rd. No, it was July 22nd. And it was 8 o'clock p.m. So we had a late dinner. And I just finished dinner. And all of a sudden I started getting this pain like lower in like my uterus and all that. And I thought, well, maybe okay, I'll take some Tylenol and go lay down with like a heating pad. And I laid down, and it started getting worse and worse and more intense. And it was going on like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I managed to like fall asleep for maybe an hour. And then I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning on the 23rd. And you get that internal instinct. And I was just like, I need to go to the hospital now. Something is wrong. So I, just lightly woke up my husband and said, I'm going to the hospital. I'm okay to drive, but I'm going to the hospital because something is wrong. So I got up to the hospital. There's nobody in our tiny little hospital, in our tiny little community. So I was like in right away. The doctor come in and he had me lay down soon. Like I was okay sitting. As soon as he had me lie down flat on my back, I was a 20 on a 10 scale for pain. I had the worst pain in my abdomen. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. Like you could probably hear me in my house from the hospital. That's how loud I was screaming. So they got me pain medication and all that stuff. I had to wait until 7 o'clock in the morning for the blood lab to open. They took blood. They tried to get me in the x-ray and tried to get me to lay down again. That was a big no-no. I actually had the x-ray technician came back into my room and asked if I was okay because she'd never heard anybody scream that loud in pain ever. So that's saying something. So then I had to go for ultrasounds, blah, blah, blah. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 23rd, I was being ambulanced to Edmonton, which is like a 2-hour drive away from where I live. And I was admitted there because I had what's called an ectopic pregnancy. So I was pregnant. My blood work was showing that I was pregnant. But so this kind of pregnancy is a very rare pregnancy. 1 to 2% of all pregnancies end in ectopic, which means they can form in the fallopian tube, which is what happened to me. They can be outside the fallopian tube, or they can also be like somewhere inside your abdomen or abdominal cavity. So what had happened, and they took like all their x-rays and their tests and all that stuff, and I ended up not being able to eat or drink until, surgery the next day. And I was starting to go into renal failure. Like I was like light hurt and my ears, I couldn't even stand my own voice. And I was like dry heaving, and it was just like, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 24th when they finally got me in for emergency surgery because ruptured ectopic pregnancy can actually be very fatal. So from what I learned is the embryo was 8 weeks in size, and it was growing in my left fallopian tube, and the size of it ruptured and split the tube. That's where all that pain I was getting was from. And I was bleeding into my abdomen very slowly, and that's where all that pain was coming from too. So I pretty much almost died. So the nail that was missing, the O2 thingy couldn't read my finger. So I was like, you know what? And because it was pretty much life or death. Like I've gone for abdominal surgeries before, but I don't know. Like I went in, I wasn't afraid. I don't know. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And then they had the nurses come in with like all the pamphlets, like, oh, sorry for your loss. And I think if I had known, it would have been worse. But the fact that I didn't know and I wasn't attached made the transition a little easier for me. But like the fact that I was almost like I almost died. I don't know, it kind of it changes you as a person, and it makes you see things in a different light. And I don't know, the only thing I was thinking of the whole time was Vinny. That's the only thing that I was like, all my worst fears, like my anxiety, what if I die before, what if I die, you know. So that's my missing nail story. So I had it, the surgery was laparoscopic. So I had 3 tiny little incisions. I took a week off from doing nails, and then I slowly started back again the last week of July, I think it was. And I'm just starting to get back into work and all that again. But yeah, that's my little story. So yeah, definitely looking at life in a different light, for sure. So don't feel bad for me. I don't feel bad for me. I'm perfectly okay. Like up this video, subscribe. You guys can follow me on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are liking my weird characters on TikTok, but anywho's, I hope you guys stay tuned. Have a good night. I'm gonna go to bed. Stay jazzy.